according to the FBI's assessment, during the years of 2016 and 2017, a legally armed citizen was able to stop the carnage and prevent further loss of life in an active shooter situation 94% of the time. Of course, this corroborates previous studies which pretty much said the exact same thing, including a CDC report commissioned by former President Barack Obama back in 2013 following the tragedy at Sandy Hook. Joining me now to discuss this finding, founder and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, John Lott. John, it's always good to see you, and especially with this is a better topic, and this is something you've discussed a lot, I've talked about with you a lot. This, I don't know how many studies and how many examinations of this theory need to be taken, need to be enacted, because this, I mean, we know this, good guys with guns, it's not a theory, it's not a myth, it's a reality. Your thoughts on this?
Right. I mean, you go to our website at crimeresearch.org, and we have literally dozens of cases in just recent years where mass public shootings have been stopped by concealed carry permit holders. The amazing thing is how little national news coverage they get. I mean, even local news coverage may only get one or two stories sometimes on these cases. I've even had trouble getting national news coverage on cases even when there's film of the heroes saving lives. And I'm talking about cases primarily where police have said that if it wasn't for the presence of the concealed carry permit holder, lives would have been lost. This report that you're talking about is actually kind of rehashed some data that we had put together in September. I don't think they quite added up the numbers quite right at concealedcarry.com. Depending upon how you count it, you get someplace between about 86 and 89% of the cases where the concealed carry permit holder successfully stopped the mass public shooting from occurring.
Yeah, and this, whenever these are tallied, and how do it does the perpetrator, does the attacker in this instance, because there's always such a discrepancy between the numbers. I mean, for instance, the 2013 thing, it was anywhere from like 500,000 to 2.5 million instances, usages annually. This even differs a little bit from that. Is it just because that it's categorized differently depending upon whether or not the individual who is defending their life with a firearm, whether they squeeze the trigger, whether they shoot the perpetrator, or whether they simply brandish it?
Right. Well, they're looking at active shooting cases from the FBI data. First of all, you have to realize the FBI, I mean, people talk about how kind of the political problems at the top of the FBI, it's not just there. It's unfortunately during the Obama administration, it's gotten into the actual data that they've been collecting. One of the things that we pointed out is that they've missed half the cases, at least, of concealed carry permit holders stopping these types of crimes from occurring. An active shooting case is any time where somebody fires a gun in public, doesn't even have to wound or kill somebody else, and it's as long as it's not part of some other crime or some type of gang fight occurring over drug term, then it'll be counted in those numbers. And when you look at those, you find about 16-17% of the attacks are stopped by civilians with permanent concealed handguns. The reason why we don't find more than that is because these killers are smart enough to go and attack places where concealed carry permits aren't allowed. So, I wish that's one lesson we would learn from this. I mean, you look at all the cases that we've had recently, where you've had the shooting in Pittsburgh at the synagogue, or the shooting in California at the bar and grill that was there, or the shooting that occurred recently at a hospital in Chicago. Just recent cases alone that have gotten major national news attention. Every single one of those, as well as about 98% of the mass public shootings since 1950, keep on taking place in those areas where people aren't allowed to protect themselves. These killers may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. And so the only reason why you don't have more than 16 or 17% of these attacks being stopped by a concealed carry permit holder is because they're occurring in places where permit holders aren't allowed. We've collected data on the number of permit holders nationwide. As of the middle of last year, there were at least about 17.3 million concealed carry permit holders. And that doesn't count the fact that in 14 states, in either all or virtually all of the state, you have constitutional carry. And so you find that in many of those places, people don't even get permits because they don't have to do it. So the number of people who are legally carrying is obviously much higher than that.
All right. And that kind of goes along with the story that happened at Mercy Hospital in Chicago just last week. Horrible story, but everyone was asking, well, where was the good guy with a gun in that situation? And to your point, John, they were banned. You can't take a gun into a hospital in Illinois.
Right. No, you're not allowed to. It's very clear. It's on your license. In California is one of only 11 states that ban people being able to go and carry permit concealed handguns in bar type areas. I'll give you an example of just how the media covers these types of things. You have the Pulse nightclub shooting that occurred a couple of years ago. That occurred in a nightclub. Obviously got huge coverage. There were 49 people who were killed. 10 days after that, there was an attack that occurred at a nightclub in South Carolina. The attacker had something like 100 rounds of ammunition on him. They had fired 4 shots, wounding a few people there. But it didn't turn out to be another Pulse nightclub shooting because the 4th person who tried to shoot had a permanent concealed handgun and was able to go and stop it. And so that case, I thought it would be a type of case that would get national news coverage because everybody was so sensitized about having an attack at a nightclub. We just had 49 people killed. Florida, like California, is one of those states that ban people being able to go and carry permanent concealed handguns in places that get more than half their revenue from alcohol. But it didn't hardly got any coverage, barely got local news coverage. But the sheriff for the county in South Carolina said that he believed that many lives were saved as a result of the permit holder being there.
Exactly, which goes into this study that we're talking about now. John Lott, always good to see you. Crime Prevention Research, crimeresearch.org. John, thank you as always.